by building further and further out. But those young families who live further and further out have to pay an enormous amount of money sitting in cars in serious congestion to get to their jobs. So, you know, that in itself can be a health issue, and it doesn't help the budget for those people. So, although we're talking about the future urban land supply strategy, we also have to take into consideration the amazingly negative debates that we have when we talk about upzoning. You know, nobody wants to go high, nobody wants to redevelop brownfields in the city. They all want to go out, and out means congestion. Out often means you don't have the budget to pay the mortgage because it's going in other things. So it's not just a simple fix of pushing out and out and out all the time.
Thank you, Councillor. I've got Councillor Cashmore, Councillor Penrose, and a question from Councillor Wood.
I want to make a comment as well.
Okay. Well, we'll go Cashmore, Penrose, Wood, and then I think we need to take a 5-minute break and go on to our next item. Councillor Cashmore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Shark, and I know that the full report does do the numbers on the number of dwellings that are going to be released through this strategy. Perhaps you could just give the Council a quick overbrief of what we can do inside the MUL under the current provisions potentially, and then what this will do in each decade to release that going forward. Or Amanda.
Or Amanda, yeah.
So, through you, Madam Chair, the numbers that we have, the dwelling numbers that we have, decade by decade, rather than area by area, but decade by decade. Decade 1, we have around, 26,000 dwellings. To about 30,000 dwellings. In decade 2, we have around 30,000 dwellings, and in decade 3, around 35,000 dwellings, approximately.
Yep. Thank you. So that's quite a big capacity, Madam Chair, and providing the infrastructure around that is a challenge because there's some substantial lead-in times, which is why when you start looking inside the MUL, some of that intensification is so vitally important to take up the maximum part of the slack. So thank you. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you. Very good question, Councillor. Councillor Penrose.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. I'll be brief and succinct. I just want to acknowledge the team that worked on this process over the last few months. It's been an arduous process, I know. But you know, we've got to be mindful of the fact is that we've got to keep a foot to the accelerator. You know, along with dwellings, we've got to have that business, industrial and commercial land. As we know, we've got nothing available, ready to roll across the Auckland region, and we only have, I continue to say, we only have that piece of portion of land, 2A and 2B in Takanini. And we know today that companies today are looking for 2, 4, 6, 8 and hectare sites, and we need to get things moving to attract business and business growth for those homes that are going to require jobs. So I just want to again acknowledge the team on this. If I look at Plan Change 35, if I look at Pūnui, you know, that will continue that process. I know there's some concern around moving the rub to the water's edge, but that'll be picked up through that process as we go forward. But again, we need to keep the foot to the accelerator and start delivering. So again, thanks to the team.
Thank you, Councillor Penrose. And question, Councillor Wood.
Yeah, thank you. Just in relation to the structure planning, and I'm very pleased to see that that is highlighted in the document and the report, but what's going to be the process as far as getting that structure planning underway? Because some of these are only, you know, a decade away. So,
Through the Chair, of course the whole strategy, should it be adopted today, will then have to be program managed over the next 20 years. Part of that would be, so one element of that would be managing the provision of the infrastructure, making sure that that all happens within the timing that the strategy indicates, as would be the same for the structure planning. So it would be done as a package and it would be program managed in that way. The first structure planning that would come up would be at Whanuapai. It's in the first half of the second decade, so that's upon us. And the intention is that that would actually start early next year. So we would kick off with the first structure planning, and that would be for the whole of the Whanuapai area. So like Councillor Webster said, the idea is to do these in really big areas so that you can actually coordinate all of the infrastructure and get really good outcomes on the ground. We are trying to create communities here. It is not just about the housing. It is also about the employment and making really good use of that land. So we'll be programmed. First one will be Whanuapai.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a couple of comments. Firstly, I think this is a great blueprint for the future development of the Auckland region, and I think it's long overdue that we have such a blueprint as to how things are going to roll out across the region. As far as that C up there, we can obviously, once the independent hearings panel comes back to and reports back, that will be the time. I think we may have to do some rejigging, but it's what's happening within the MUL as far as what the development capacity is going to be will be very important. So we'll be watching that, and no doubt officers will keep us abreast of what's happening. And as I said, we are on a very tight, critical path when you look through this document at the decades that are going to, when things are going to start happening. And I look at, in my area, Dairy Flat, Silverdale and Wainui, they have areas of huge capacity, and as I've already asked you, structure planning will be extremely important because Auckland has had a track record of doing subdivisions and then doing another subdivision and kind of linking them together without any thought as to what the roading configuration should be, and we've ended up in the situation where we can't get an emergency vehicle like a fire engine down to service the areas because we haven't planned properly. So that structure planning won't happen easy. It's not going to be an easy process, but it's one that we must tackle head on and put in a lot of effort. So thank you to the team and all the officers who have brought this together. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good moment then to put the recommendation. I'll put those. Councillor Quacks, did you want to
Just have
register?
my
Just
voice
would be,
recorded again,
yeah,
see.
we'll put them together, but we'll do a note that you are not happy with B.
And just clarification, I did introduce this by saying it was unanimous of the panel, and I hope I didn't misinform.
No, you
Councillor
didn't.
Quacks did point out through the panel that he felt that there should be more land release, but I think it could be, Councillor Quacks, I think you were in general agreement with the sequencing and many of the monitoring and many of the other things within the document, but it was about the extent of the land release.
That's
So,
right.
Yep.
thank you,
No,
Chief.
and Councillor Quacks, to his credit, has been absolutely consistent on
That was
this
C,
issue.
Madam Chair, for Councillor Quacks.
Right,
C.
C. Not B, C.
B.
Done. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 Against? Carried. Thank you. Now, everyone, we'll just take a 5-minute break and we'll be back very shortly. It's 11:04. We'll be back by 11:10. Thank you. Shortly.